announcing such a case. So I'm going to take you back to Friday, July 10th, 1998. A woman posing as a healthcare worker approached the young mother of a newborn and walked out of what was in University Medical Center with a baby and disappeared. And that baby was Kamiyah Mobley. An intense and detailed and lengthy multi-agency investigation was immediately initiated and captured the attention of the city and beyond. In the 18 years since that child's abduction, we have received and followed up on more than 2,500 investigative leads and tips related to this case. And late last year, we received 2 informational leads that took us to Walterboro, South Carolina. JSO cold case detectives traveled there to follow up on those leads, and the Walterboro Police Department provided us crucial assistance, which really helped bring us all here today, and we want to thank them for their help in helping us follow up those leads. So in South Carolina, we found an 18-year-old young woman with the same date of birth, but a different name. So further investigation revealed that fraudulent documents had been used to establish that young woman's identity. And interviews with people in Walterboro supported the possibility that this young woman may in fact be Kamiyah Mobley. JSO investigators obtained a DNA sample from her earlier this week. That sample was submitted to the FDLE Crime Lab for testing. And last night we received confirmation that the young woman that we contacted in South Carolina is in fact Kamiyah Mobley. In the interest of reducing any further trauma to this young woman, I am not revealing her name, the name that she's lived under for all these years. And please remember that this young woman was abducted as a newborn, and she was going to need time and assistance to process all of this. So we are respecting her privacy and ask that you do the same. Early this morning in Walterboro, again, South Carolina, we and local authorities served a search warrant and an arrest warrant at the residence where she has lived. And charged with kidnapping and interference with custody is 51-year-old Gloria Williams. And we will be coordinating with Walterboro, South Carolina, as soon as we have booking photos and docket information. We'll be able to make sure that we release those and get those out to you. So this morning I met with the biological family of Kamiyah here in Jacksonville, and recognizing the emotional impact to all of these victims and people involved in this case. In both cities, we coordinated victims advocates to provide services to all those involved, including Kamiyah up in South Carolina. So this is an active and ongoing investigation, and as always, there will be things and questions that we cannot answer here today to protect the integrity of the investigation, but we'll do our best here in just a few minutes to answer some of the questions that you may have. Before we do that, I want to thank our partners, the Walterboro, South Carolina Police Department, our local state attorney's office, obviously FDLE, and the FBI for their assistance in this investigation. And at this time, I'm going to ask Mrs. Nelson to make any comments that she might like to make, and then after that, we'll be able to answer a few questions. Ms. Nelson.
Thank you, Sheriff. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the dedication and the perseverance of the law enforcement professionals who have brought this case to this point, and the willingness of a citizen to come forward with information. The case is new, information is unfolding, so there's not much more that I can add to Sheriff Williams other than to say that the resources of the State Attorney's Office will be dedicated to ensuring that justice happens in this case. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So with that, we'll answer a few questions. Yes, ma'am.
Lindsay Gardner, Channel 4. Sheriff Williams, can you tell us the kind of help that Kamiyah was in? Did she seem to have a good childhood? I think a lot of folks have been very worried about her over the years.
Yeah, she I don't know about her health, but she appears to be in good health. She appears to be a normal 18-year-old young woman. So
I would imagine that's going to change dramatically. I mean, what sort of reaction did she have to the news?
Well, without getting into a whole lot of detail, she had an inclination beginning probably a couple of months ago that she may have been involved in this in some way. So we were able to deliver that to her today. And again, she's taking it as well as you could imagine. But again, we have victims advocates up there. She has a lot to process. She has a lot to think about, as you can imagine. I can't even begin to comprehend it. So I really can't answer that question other than to say we're going to provide all the assistance that we can. So,
Sheriff Williams.
She was elated. So we spoke to the mother, the grandmother, and the father, and a couple of other close friends of the family. They were extremely excited, as you can imagine. and just, overwhelmed with emotion.
Will she be coming back?
I don't know. I don't know at this point.
Did she grow up believing the woman arrested today was her biological mother?
She did.
Did she have any other immediate family in the home, or was it just she and her mother?
There were some other family in the home, and without getting into a whole lot of detail of that, but there were other family in the home.
Sheriff
Well,
Williams,
now-
she's 18 years old now, so her future is really up to her. Explain what's next for what she may or may not do.
Well, we really can't answer that question. I mean, I don't know what she's 18. She's an adult. She's clearly a victim in this case. But again, a case like we have not seen, obviously, in this country for a long time. So clearly, nothing that we have all dealt with around here. So it's a learning process for all of us. So lots of questions like that left to be answered. And again, I can't stress enough, to give her some space and try to let her process this and work through it, because it's incredible.
How do your investigators feel? Some of your gang has been here long enough to remember when
Sure.
they were covering this day one.
Well, I mean, obviously there's a sense of accomplishment in terms of, professionally you've done that, and it really speaks to the professionalism. This case has been passed off. It's been so long since it was really an active case. There's been a lot of people that really were heavily invested on day one that are not here anymore and retired. But, they passed that off to a group of dedicated professionals that maintained focus on the case, did the things they were supposed to do with tips when they came in, and really that's what led us here today. So we did this morning make some calls to some of those who were, again, heavily invested in this case in the very beginning, just to let them know. And clearly, we did not know this until late last night, that we actually did have, in fact, Kamaya Mobley located.
Did
Refresh our
Gloria
memory of
Williams
the
have any
DNA.
kind of prior criminal history, and did they go straight to Walterboro, South Carolina from as far as you knew?
So start over. Tell me that again.
Did Gloria Williams, the woman you arrested, she have any previous criminal history before this? And did she take the baby straight to Walterboro, South Carolina?
So a lot of those questions we don't have answered yet. I have not seen her criminal history, so I can't speak to it. We will release that very soon. But I believe there is one, but we'll release the details of that.
Can you
And
refresh our memory a little bit about how the DNA was obtained in the first place and how this match was able to be made?
so the original DNA was from the hospital, and I'm not sure of the process there, but the newborn DNA process that occurs, that's where that DNA came from, and we obtained a swab from Kamaya up in South Carolina just a few days ago.
Are there efforts underway to reunite her with her biological family?
I'm going to stay away from that at this point. A lot of that is up to them. The ability is there for that to happen. They have to make that decision, and she has to make that decision. That can't happen if she wants it to happen. It can't happen. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. Again, it's not something that, again, imagine the gravity of what she's dealing with. I don't know when that decision will be made. Yeah, Jim.
Talk about the tip that led you to South Carolina. How did you know? How did all of that come about?
So again, I'll tell you as much as I can. We received, I'll say maybe a series of tips through the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and obviously we follow up on those, and that's what kind of began the ball rolling for us, and got us to South Carolina and got us here today.
You said that she.
Extradited back here.
Yes, she's going to be extradited back here.
You said that the 18-year-old Kamaya had an inkling in the last couple months. So you guys had an interview with her. What sort of things was she telling you?
Again, I'm not going to go into the detail of that other than to say I think she had an idea that something may have occurred. But again, imagining her trying to process this, and so the interview process is difficult. You want to try not to traumatize the victim any more than necessary. So it's been kind of a slow roll in that area up to this point, but we do believe that she did have an idea that she may have been a kidnapping victim.
Did it seem that Kamaya and her, who the woman she believed to be her mother, had a close relationship, and was she there when the woman was arrested?
She was not there when she was arrested, and we do believe, it was her mother. She believed it to be her mother for 18 years. So
Has Gloria made any statements about why specifically she took that baby from the hospital?
she has not.
Did she admit to taking Kamaya from the hospital?
We won't talk about any of the interview process, but I don't believe that she consented to be interviewed today.
Was Ms. Williams a resident of Jacksonville 18 years ago, or did she just happen to come in and decide to hang out at the old University Hospital?
That's a good question. So we don't believe she was a resident, but again, those are things that we're going to look into. We're not sure of ties to Jacksonville. Again, we are as early in this investigation as you can be, and it is as complicated as an investigation as you can imagine. So we are going to work on all those details. That's a piece of information that we will try to obtain, obviously. So,
Are there other suspects?
no, not this time.
So people in Gloria's life, were they led to believe that she had been pregnant and had this baby? Have you been able to speak with any of the extended family?
Again, that's an investigative detail. We are speaking to extended family. We're speaking to as many people as we can to try to paint a picture of what may have happened 18 years ago, how that impacted the decision she made to commit the kidnapping, what made her, lots of questions left unanswered. So, but yes, we're going to look into all that.
What is Williams' tie to South Carolina? Is that where she's from?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Williams, her tie to South Carolina, is she from Waltersboro?
Yes.
Can you say if the tipster was someone other than Kamaya?
Yeah, we won't identify the no information on the origin of the tip. Yes, sir.
Kind of curious about the cold case officers that made the approach. What was going through their mind, and was there any training they had prior to making this approach that helped them out, or?
Well, there's a lot of training and experience helps with that as well in dealing with victims. Keep in mind that many of these investigators spend many years in homicide, so you're delivering news to family members that potentially their family member is a victim of a homicide. So they have a lot of experience in delivering good and bad news sometimes to family members. So they lean on that heavily. And as far as what was going through their minds, I mean they're professionals and they were doing their job. I'm sure as this unfolds and as they get time to sit back and reflect, they'll be able to to think about what that. But I think now really the focus has been professionally to get the job done and make sure they do the things they need to do
In terms of
to get it accomplished.
The Jacksonville family, there was a time when they were less than compliant with investigators, didn't participate fully. I believe they declined to have an updated sketch done of the baby. Are you confident that they were not involved at all in this?
I can tell you this. I mean, think about there's a lot of reasons why they may not have cooperated fully with the investigation, and it doesn't mean that they were involved in it. So, again, we will look at every aspect of this case. We will look at every part of it, but I wouldn't jump to the conclusion that just because they didn't agree 10 years later to continue, to give us additional information that they were involved. So we don't know that.
Certainly not, but are you confident that they were not involved?
Listen, I can tell you this. We just found out last night that this was Kamaya Mobley, so we are in the early stages of digging back into this 18-year-old investigation and trying to cover all the bases there. Jim, you had something?
Well, we watched the age progression photos that you had. Did they seem accurate? I mean, did that help?
Of everything I've looked at in the last couple of days, I have not looked at age progression photos, so I don't know. I haven't looked at those photos to see, but I'm sure those will be released here at some point. You can make a.
Was she made aware that she has half siblings here in Jacksonville?
I do not know the answer to that.
Will she play a role in your investigation? Will she have to participate in questions and coming into the station and that sort of thing?
There is a role that she will be asked to play in the investigation, so we'll see how that goes.
Do her actual biological parents know the name she grew up with now, or if anybody contact her, or is it pretty much up to Kamaya to decide?
So my understanding is that that is an ongoing conversation. So it obviously is up to Kamaya. She's an adult, so and we'll see what happens with that. So.
Did you say anything about the role FDLE and the FBI played in this? Obviously, you're a little unsure as to what they.
So the FBI from the very beginning of this case 18 years ago was a key partner in the investigation, and will be moving forward. The U.S. Attorney may play a role in this case at some point. FDLE, without their crime lab services that we use, obviously in a variety of cases, we would not have been able to be standing here before you today. I would not have come before you today to say that we located Kamaya Mobley. We did it with their help and their expertise in DNA. That's why they're involved today.
Back in 1998, was Gloria Williams ever on a suspect list or ever one of your suspects back in the initial investigation? I know that there was just sketches of the person.
I would say no, but I'm not completely sure about that as I stand here before you today. We have all that information. I just don't have it for you here today. My initial gut is that no, she wasn't, but we'll dig into that.
Can you tell us about Gloria Williams as a citizen in South Carolina? Did she have a job? Was she around children often?
You know, I don't know the answer to that at this point either. So, again, very early stages. We wanted to bring this to you. The biggest piece of news we have today is that we have located Kamiyah Mobley. So all these are great questions, same questions we have. So it's going to take us a while to dig through all the information and find that out, but we will absolutely find that out.
Can we ask the state attorney a few questions about
Sure.
some charges that Ms. Williams is facing? Not to put her on the spot, but if there is a conviction, we heard kidnapping and the second charge as well. Can you talk to us a little bit about the minimum maximums and also if any, I don't know, leniency might be given depending on what Kamiyah might want in this situation?
So under state law, there are no minimum mandatories. Kidnapping is a first-degree felony punishable by up to life. Interference with custody is a third-degree felony with a maximum of 5 years.
Now, would you at all take into consideration what the victim may want in this case?
We have obviously not met with Kamiyah yet, and right now, as the sheriff said, it's very, very early.
What about Kamiyah's family? Will they play a role in how you go forward with, how you try this case?
We met this morning with the sheriff with Kamiyah's biological parents, both her mother and her father, and we promised that we would be committed to holding their hand through this process, communicating with them every step of the way, letting them know what to expect, and answering every question they have.
With respect to the support system in place for Kamiyah now, because, as you've mentioned, getting in touch with her biological family is her decision, but the support network she's built for 18 years, maybe she's now casting a doubt on as well. Can you talk about, just what's being offered for her at this point in terms of support?
Do you want to take that or do you
Yeah,
want me to?
I'll take that. I think so. It's going to be up to her as to what she what she needs. So what we provided today is a victim's advocate who really is a conduit to a variety of services. So we're not quite sure until they spend time together today what it is that she may need. So, but again, with great cooperation from the agency in South Carolina and Walterboro, we've been able to provide that. So we'll have to wait and see.
Tell us about how she was
Why Ms. Williams zoomed in on Kamiyah's mother? We know her mother was very young, but do we know at all how she was able to hone in on this family?
No, hopefully we'll find that out in the course of interviews and during the rest of the investigation.
Was the mother arrested at her house this morning? Can you tell us a little bit how that transpired?
The JSO detectives and the Walterboro, South Carolina Police Department arrested her at her home this morning,
And the girl was
pursuant to
not
an arrest warrant. Kamiyah was not there.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right, there we